What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. This is the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast, Tuesday, November 28th. And I'm your host, Griffin Palmer, joined by the one and the only Jason Cabrera. What's up, buddy?
What is going on? Where is it? Just you and me?
It's just us.
What's this about?
I don't know. CJ, he never made it home I almost said from Christmas. He never made it home from Thanksgiving. I don't know.
Yeah, he's still running it off. He's probably running it off somewhere.
Well, he's got to run it off. Did you see those videos that he posted of him doing the play-by-play John Madden breakdowns that he posted to Facebook?
I sadly did.
Yes.
And it was sad.
When the Eagles are doing well, CJ gets to a whole new level of cockiness, and he starts doing ridiculous things. Not just in his football circles, not amongst us, but he puts it out there for the entire world to see. So, kind of a cheap shot at him being overweight, because he's not. But he's not here to defend himself.
I got nothing to say. I probably got him by a good 50 pounds. So, got nothing to say.
All right, so for those of you who have stuck with us through the first, 30 seconds of the show, welcome, everybody. This is the official podcast of thefantasyfootballfanatics.com. And, we have quite the show for you guys today. Let's actually start talking fantasy before we lose those that are left.
Hey, come on. This is provocative, man. It's provocative.
This is the deep, in-depth analytics that people need to hear. But yes, today we're going to be talking all of our studs and duds from week number 12, top waiver wire targets from week number for week number 13, and the top headlines from around the league. So with that, I guess let's go ahead and jump right to it and talk about some of our studs and duds from week number 12. Now, again, just to put this all out there, we do standard scoring for this because that's what most of you play, and we base this off 6 points per passing touchdown because that's just better. And we'll start at the quarterback position, where your top studs of the week start off with at the top of the mountain, we have Big Ben Roethlisberger. 38.5 fantasy points, second week in a row. He went for 351 yards, 4 touchdowns. He also threw a 2-point conversion, did have 2 interceptions, which kept him from getting over 40 points, but a monster performance from Big Ben, and this is the Steelers offense that we kind of expected to see all season long, been kind of heating up the last couple weeks.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, a good matchup doesn't hurt either against the Packers, which actually didn't look too bad on defense for most of that game. It's just some busted coverages and some, obviously, amazing performances by one Antonio Brown really helped pull this away. This game went down to the wire. Brett Hundley actually looked good in this game, and I'm going to go and say right now.
Brett Hundley did look good.
Yeah.
Brett Hundley did look good. I thought he looked like he could take this team possibly into the playoffs, maybe not deep into the playoffs, but I definitely saw a lot more out of him than I've seen in the past, and he's getting better every time you see him. So I like me some Brett Hundley.
I'm in the opposite camp. He's obviously been getting better with every single week, and statistically that has been reflecting that. But I went back and I looked at the film because, again, Steelers are my rival, and I hate them very much. I wanted to see what was going on. And, it was total miscommunications and broken coverages half the time that led to those big, wide-open plays. I don't think it was anything Brett Hundley was doing. Though, he did make the throw, so kudos to him. But he is also a professional quarterback. So, I'm not rushing out to get him in fantasy. If you're in deeper leagues, 2 quarterback leagues, and you need a quarterback, that's on you. Yeah. You do what you got to do, but there are better streaming options out there that I definitely like the floors on better than Brett Hundley. Though, to be fair, in a tough matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers, he's got the Buccaneers next week, which pretty good. Cleveland Browns the week after that, which is really good. And then he's got Carolina and Minnesota to round out the through Week 16 season. Good. So those are your 2 playoff weeks. So, yeah. Man.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. No.
Week 13, Jason. Week 14 is the start of playoffs, depending on your league's format.
It's depressing. I'm depressed.
It's happening so quickly.
I'm already getting depressed, and we're still in the middle of the season. I'm just depressed. It's not good.
Well, we're not in the middle anymore. We're
near the end.
Well, towards the end. Is it because you have no chance of making the playoffs in our big league of record this year?
Well, it's not just that. It's also how my Cardinals have been playing this year. We pulled out a win this week. But, it's just been football-wise, it's been a really bad year for me.
No, that's fair.
That way.
But it was a good weekend for us as a show. All 3 of our teams won. So that's good.
Yeah.
My Ravens on Monday Night Football looking terrible offensively as we have all season long, but defense was good. At times they broke down coverage, but good overall, and obviously great special teams. So if Joe Flacco could just remember how to play football, we'd be doing
nice.
pretty decent. Back to what we were supposed to be talking about, though. Your number 2 quarterback on the week, Phillip Rivers, 34.86 fantasy points.
Finally.
300, wow. 434 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, so great performance there. And then Case Keenum making an argument to stay the Vikings starting quarterback, 282 yards and 2 touchdowns, also rushed another touchdown in. So, as of right now, look, we've heard that their quarterback situation is being evaluated week to week. Case Keenum, strong outing yet again. I think he's earned himself the right to be the quarterback in Week 13, and honestly, going forward. There have been talks and rumors that are saying that he might be looking at getting a Pro Bowl nod this year, and this is the guy who has been quite the journeyman through his career. I mean, great collegiate career, but has not really put it together in the NFL level. So, I'd love to see it personally. I like Case Keenum. So, we'll see. Teddy Bridgewater, everybody likes him though, and he's got that amazing narrative comeback story. So it'll look great. It'll look great in Cleveland. Yeah. Wow. It's a heartwarming story either way in Minnesota, but I don't know. I'm pulling for Case Keenum. He's got the job and he's been doing great with it. And Teddy Bridgewater will obviously probably take the team over in the offseason. So just let it happen. Let's go to the running back studs of the week. Alvin freaking Kamara. Has been on fire since Adrian Peterson left, and he now is your top running back from week number 12. 30.8 fantasy points. He did this on 5 rushing attempts, Jason. 5.
My God.
And that's what scares me.
It's just disgusting. It's just disgusting. I'm starting to hate the New Orleans Saints, not because I actually dislike them, but it just flush with stuff. I mean, they got Drew Brees, one of the greatest passers of all time. Now they've got 2 of the best running backs in the league on the same team. It's just ridiculous, man. These guys will beat you any way they want.
We've been only saying for years that they should give Melvin Ingram, more opportunity.
Finally.
And they finally started letting him run a bit more, and then all of a sudden, here comes Alvin Kamara. Oh, yeah, wow, Melvin Ingram. Different guy altogether.
Melvin Ingram is like his little brother that runs a pharmacy or something.
Yeah. Or, is a wide receiver.
No, you're right.
But, yes.
But, no, you're right. Mark Ingram has been great. His whole career. They just have never given him a chance. Now they give him this rookie to run behind him as a change of pace guy. And holy crap, I mean, they're leading the league right now. It's ridiculous.
Yep, the best 1-2 punch in football. I mean, there's been enough volume that, except for this week, which we'll get to, there's been plenty of volume for both these guys to be top rushers, startable assets for your team. And Alvin Kamara, your number 1 running back on the week on only 11 touches. 5 rushing attempts for 87 yards and a touchdown. Wow. And then also caught all 6 of his targets for another 101 yards and a receiving touchdown. So, yeah.
There you go. There it is right there. 101 yards and a touchdown through the air. That's just insane.
Yeah. So remember when we were calling for big things with Alvin Kamara back in the preseason, and then we were talking about how both these guys looked really good when Adrian Peterson was leaving? That might have been on the Patreon show, but we were highly recommending you invest and trade for these guys. It looks like we were right. So, Alvin Kamara, a startable asset, even though he's in a timeshare, because if there's one thing that the Saints want to do this year, it is to run the ball. I think that, Drew Brees obviously is elite, but he's getting up there. He also doesn't have the surrounding cast that he's had in years past, but I think he still has a talented receiving core. But I don't know. They're running to set up the pass for a change.
He's never needed it, though. He's never needed it. I mean, that's the thing about Drew Brees is he's always taken these guys no one's ever heard of and made them superstars.
Absolutely.
And it's like this year he just hasn't had to. He hasn't really. I mean, he's had to do just enough to win, and it's Drew Brees, so he's going to win. And then he's got these 2 freaking studs out there running the ball. It's scary. I mean, if they get into the playoffs deep, I look for them to go really deep in the playoffs.
Well, I mean, they're 8-3, so they're whatever they're doing, it's working. So start Alvin Kamara.
Please,
crazy to
if
think.
you haven't started.
Yeah. He's worth more than a flex play, though. If he is your flex play, you're pretty excited about that.
You're in a really good situation. Yeah.
Next guy is a guy we also were talking up. Actually, all three of these guys are rookies, and all three were guys we were talking up all preseason. Jamal Williams, 25.5 fantasy points, 66 yards and a touchdown on the ground, another 69 and a touchdown through the air. Very good, well-rounded performance. You saw it. He was basically the entire offense, except for when all of a sudden Brett Hundley would decide, let's chuck it deep and see what happens. He was... did you watch, what was it? I think it was the opening of the second half. It was one of the series in the second half where he ran the ball like 3 times. They dumped the ball to him twice. He ran the ball again, and then all the linebackers sucked up just to cover him, and that's when, in a broken coverage, Devonta Adams, went crazy deep, wide open.
Yep.
Coverage wasn't anywhere near him. I mean, I'm not going to say we could have made that throw because that was quite the distance on it, and I don't know if I have that accuracy about 40 yards on the line.
I don't think I could have gotten the ball down there.
Yeah, but I think most quarterbacks with a moderate amount of skill could have made that pass. He was wide open. So, I mean, yeah. Jamal Williams wearing down the defense, and then as soon as they responded to him, causing big openings for the Packers offense, running to set up the pass, which is quite the opposite of the formula that they've had during the Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers eras. So, yeah, we'll see. But looking very good, and I think he has solidified himself as the lead back. Even when Ty Montgomery comes back, I think he will be the change of pace, third down pass catching back. Though Jamal Williams showing he can be good in the pass catching game, 69 yards and a touchdown, caught 4 of 5 targets. Joe Mixon finally had a game, 22.5 fantasy points, 23 attempts, so there's the volume we like. 114 yards, there's the volume we like. 1 touchdown. He also caught all 3 of his targets for another 51 yards through the air. So Joe Mixon putting together a good game and a good matchup, to be fair, but this is what we've been wanting to see all season long, so good news there. Let's go to the wide receiver position where Julio Jones shows us why we draft him, why we go through all the ebbs and flows of Julio Jones, because though he will lose you weeks, he will also single-handedly win you weeks. When he goes off for 38.8 fantasy points, more than any quarterback did this week. He went off for 253 yards and 2 touchdowns. Also added another 15 yards rushing just for, giggles. Yep. So, yeah. Julio Jones.
It's one of those weeks, man. It's one of those Julio Jones weeks where he kind of wakes up and goes, "Yeah, play today." He'll go back to sleep next week, though.
Exactly. He'll get you not to this level. Let's be real, but he'll put up probably 3 or 4 week-winning performances, maybe all season long. And then he mixes in some of these other games, like week 4, where he got you 3 points, and week 10, where he got you 5.5, and then all of a sudden 38.8 points in week 12. So good matchups help, and just actually getting volume. I mean, he was targeted 15 times, which is what we'd like to see from what most people consider to be one of the purest, true elite wide receiver ones in the league. So. Good job, Falcons, realizing you have a superstar wide receiver and using him.
Yeah, throwing the ball to him.
It's amazing what happens when you do that.
Smarties.
Antonio Brown came in next. He had a monster of a game. We also saw this on Sunday Night Football. 30.9 fantasy points, 10 for 12, 169 yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns. Also caught a 2-point conversion. So, again, this is why you invest highly in Antonio Brown. And then a guy that I have been preaching for you all to please pick up off your waiver wires for the last 5 weeks, I believe it was. Robbie Anderson. I can't even say it this week because he's now owned in over half of leagues. People are slowly learning. But Robbie Anderson, 26.6 fantasy points, 146 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He has scored in 5 weeks straight, I believe it was. Let me verify that because I know it's at least 5 of the last 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it is 5 of the last 6 because there was a bye week in week 11. So, yeah, there you go. So last 5 games he's played in, he's scored at least 1 touchdown, and he scored 2 this week. So, yeah, and then a good matchup against the Chiefs next week, which are not good against pass catchers. So I love Robbie Anderson. He has solidified himself as a true wide receiver 1 for fantasy, and if you have him as a wide receiver 2 or less, you are having a serious advantage at the position because this is a guy you probably picked up off waiver wires because he's been available in the vast majority of leagues for the last 3 or 4 weeks. Well, just saying. Tight end position, a whole bunch of names that you'd expect to see here. Finally, a good outing from at least the bigger names. Rob Gronkowski, 20.2 fantasy points. Gronk smash, 82 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kyle Rudolph finally getting some production, but not on volume. Still not getting good volume this year. Caught all 4 of his targets for 63 yards and 2 touchdowns. That was good for 18.3 fantasy points. And then Zach Ertz getting the volume, 10 catches on 12 targets for 103 yards and a touchdown. So those are your top performers. Let's run through. Almost December. Yeah, he's got to start heating up. It's the end of the year. Oh, man.
Zach Ertz time. That's when he wakes up.
You know, we talked about that all preseason and draft season, and I completely forgot about that narrative till right there. So, yeah, that's a very valid point. We should have predicted this. We should have told people that no matter what, you start him now because we're in the last couple weeks of the season. Yeah.
You know, he's like one of the reindeers. You know, he doesn't work all season, and then all of a sudden December comes around and they start like getting in shape. That's Zach Ertz. He's ready to go now.
Yeah, then he works his butt off for 1 month, and then
exactly
goes back to hibernating essentially.
Then he goes back to hibernating. Yeah. Exactly.
Let's go to the duds of the week. These are guys that let you down. Of course, we start with Eli Manning, 2.42 fantasy points.
Damn you.
Yeah. That's not something that we wanted to see happen.
I'm starting to I hate to say it, but I'm starting to agree with CJ. I think this may be Eli Manning's last year. I mean, at least as a Giant, because he's just not doing anything. He's not performing. And I know it's not his fault. I know that it's the offensive line, and they're breaking down. They can't protect him. But come on, man, you got to do more than this. This is so bad.
I mean, does the fact that this was a divisional game against a pretty decent defense with Washington and on the road, if memory serves, give you any semblance, peace of mind?
Right.
He also lost his top 2 wide receivers.
Right, but this has been the narrative throughout the entire season. You know, I mean, there's always a reason, there's always an excuse. And I think this was kind of the narrative throughout Eli Manning's career. It's like, always an excuse. It's because of this. It's because of that. It's because of this. You look at a player like Drew Brees, and he wins. You know, and yeah, you take away his top targets, he still wins. You take away a good defense, he still wins. You know, and that's the thing. Eli Manning can't find a way to win, and against a tough divisional opponent, that's when the best have to show up, and he's not doing it. He's getting beat every time.
I mean, yeah, but you said it too. Tough divisional opponent on the road with, his top 2 wide receivers on IR. His next best wide receiver was inactive. I mean, he no offensive line he just doesn't have time. The running game's not scary. I mean, much of this?
There's also the Giants, though. And remember, the Giants love scapegoats. Look at Tom Coughlin. Tom Coughlin was not the problem in New York, and yet he's no longer there. So this is a very dangerous situation for Eli Manning's career because they're going to look for scapegoats. And I don't know if McAdoo is going to end up on the chopping block. He should, from what we've seen this year. But I'm a little concerned about Eli. I think he may be in a different uniform next year, possibly.
I mean, the Giants are the 3rd worst team in football right now. There's not much to argue there. Ben McAdoo, this great, vaunted offensive mind, has been just a train wreck of a head coach, seemingly. Defense, I mean, they were a decent team last year, though. That's the confusing thing.
Oh, they were. Their defense, especially, they were predicated on the defense. And Spagnuolo is still doing a very good job at running that defense.
I agree.
So I wouldn't be shocked if McAdoo got fired in the offseason and Spagnuolo took over as the head coach. I mean, he's the only thing working right now in New York.
I have to agree with you. I like Ben McAdoo. I don't think he deserves to get canned after one bad season, but I could see them cleaning house. Quarterback, head coach, the works, and just starting anew. Again, in what is perceived to be a very good quarterback class coming out in this coming year's draft. So
they're going to end up with a shot at one of them. I mean, if this continues, they're going to end up a shot. I mean, I could see Josh Allen in a Giants uniform, and we're starting to get closer to my time, guys. We're starting to get closer to the off season and draft and all that kind of stuff, and that's when I start to kick into gear and start writing articles and stuff. So, I mean, just as a little preview of that, I would not be surprised to see a Josh Allen or maybe even a Sam Darnold in a Giants uniform next year.
Sam Darnold would have to get past the Cleveland Browns and the 49ers first, though.
There's a couple games left, and the Browns are looking better every game, and the Giants are looking worse. So you never know.
That's true. But But again, we're getting into off-season chatter there. So if you get
moving on.
On that point, we are a year-round show. Okay, if you've made it to this far into the podcast already, kudos to you because we've derailed the conversation at least a dozen times. But
I will take full responsibility.
Yeah, stick with us. We are a year-round show, and yeah, we all have specialties. And Jason is by far the off-season collegiate guru. He loves draft season, and we'll get some pretty good in-depth takes on a lot of these talents. And of course, that's what leads to drafting these guys. And we have been right on. Can you think of anyone we've missed on so far? Who's a big dud that we were expecting a lot from as a show?
I can't think of a single dud. Maybe the receivers. I think a lot of the wide receivers that we were looking at didn't end, like Corey Davis. I was somebody that we were talking about. Zay Jones was someone we were looking at. I mean, those might be some duds that haven't really done anything. But I mean, wide receivers, it takes them a little bit more time to get their legs under them. We were excited about a lot of these running backs. The only other one I can think of is Joe Williams, but that's just because he hasn't played all year, been injured.
Yeah, he got put on IR going into the year.
Yeah,
we were excited about those wide receivers, but we openly said we didn't like where any of them landed. Not a one of them, the top three. So, I mean, we were excited about the talent going into draft season, but we cooled on them after we got out of the draft. So, I think we're doing pretty good. We're batting at least 800-900 at this point, I feel like. So, yeah. Stick with the show. Gives you an edge going into next year. Let's go back to what we were talking about, though, the duds. Eli Manning. Right. Dak Prescott, for the second week in a row, makes it as one of the top duds of the week, 3.16 fantasy points. Dak Prescott needs a running game. He needs an offensive line. He needs a lot of things. Yeah. So
he can't run the show on his own. He's not the kind of quarterback that can do it all by himself. He's got to have a running game. He's got to have his receivers working. And we'll talk about his main receiver. But, yeah, there's nothing going on there either.
No, a lot of problems in Dallas. Man, Dak Prescott. And, one of the big narratives, going back to the offseason talk, was that we haven't seen him under pressure. Well, we've seen it this year, and he has not looked like the same quarterback when he's under pressure. So, yeah.
And that line hasn't looked like the same line either. So, well, there you go.
We knew that it wasn't going to be the same line from 2016 because they lost some pieces, and then they've been banged up this year. So, not too surprised there, and Ezekiel Elliott going out isn't helping anything either. So,
At all.
Jacoby Brissett, 7.44 fantasy points. Marcus Mariota, 9.7. Alex Smith, he's no longer startable to me. 15.5 fantasy points. Yeah, no, the Chiefs' offense is really derailed, which was why I wish CJ was here, because he follows the Chiefs very closely. Being Eagles fan, he follows Andy Reid very closely, his former head coach.
Right.
Tyrod Taylor, 16 fantasy points. Drew Brees, 16.3. So these are some of the more duddy guys that you probably were starting. Some running backs. Tariq Cohen continuing to be a big letdown from his hot start to the season. Negative 0.3 fantasy points. I mean, I never got on the Tariq Cohen bandwagon, and I'm really glad I didn't invest anything in him, because I saw in some leagues where people were spending anywhere from a quarter to half their fab budget on him, and I just can't believe in a third down pass catching back. Though the narrative was kind of there that they're going to be playing from behind, but this is a team that has been playing good defense. They've been in games, so they haven't needed him as much. Jordan Howard continuing to be more or less what we thought he was worth investing. C.J. Anderson, 1.2, three-headed committee on an offense that's not good. Speaking of Jordan Howard, here he is at 1.9. Kareem Hunt, I really wish C.J. was here to talk about this guy. I don't think Kareem Hunt is an every-week start anymore. He has been a dud for the last quarter of the season. 2.6 fantasy points. He is officially matchup dependent, and I think it also boils down to just that offense. This offense seems to have completely stalled. They've dropped 5 of their last 6 games. They can't move the ball through the air. Alex Smith has gone back to being a game manager. Defenses have gotten wise to their new schemes and big plays they've been running this season. We talked about this last week. It looks like they drew up a bunch of plays, had a lot of success with them. Teams analyzed it for a couple weeks and came back with some answers, and they didn't make adjustments to the adjustments. So this whole offense is just not doing anything.
It's surprising because Andy Reid is good. Andy Reid is very good at adjusting and moving that offense around to make it able to win. Not necessarily make it a awe-inspiring, jaw-dropping offense, but he's able to adjust, and he has not adjusted. This team looks stale, and they need to figure something out quick.
They need a spark They need an infusion of energy, talent. I don't know. They're talented. I can't even say that.
No, they tons of talent. I mean, you got a Tyreek Hill, like a Kareem Hunt, Alex Smith. They got one of the best tight ends in football, and Travis Kelce. They've got the talent. It's just they need the game plan, and right now I think they need to start doing some crazy stuff, more wildcat something, get themselves a spark.
Well, this went from being arguably and argued as the top team in football, definitely the favorite AFC number 1 seed, beating the Patriots in Week 1, to dropping 5 of their last 6, and now, I mean, they're still in first place in their division. But if memory serves, I think they're only 1 game up on the Rams and the Raiders. Or not the Rams, the Chargers and the Raiders. Wrong Los Angeles team.
The other LA team.
The other LA
One
team.
of the LA teams.
Yeah. And then, so Chiefs 6-5, Chargers 5-6, Raiders 5-6, and then Broncos at 3-8. So, man, this whole season has just been crazy like that.
It has.
It has. All right, let's actually, no, we've got a whole bunch of other names to go. Matt Forte, 2.6. Doug Martin, 3.3, continuing to be a dud, but he got knocked out of the game, concussion protocol. Jay Ajayi, 3.3. Mark Ingram, 3.6. I mean, Alvin Kamara feasted, and it's only so much volume, I guess. Orleans Darkwa, 3.9. Leonard Fournette, 4.2. Amir Abdullah, 4.3. Alfred Morris, 4.9. And Jerick McKinnon, 5.4. None of these guys even got you to 6 points, the equivalent of falling into the end zone. Wide receivers that let you down. Devontae Parker, 0.5, continuing to show that he is not startable if Jay Cutler is not there.
Nope.
Jeremy Maclin, 0.6. I needed 1.2 fantasy points to win in in 2 leagues for sure, and then I think I needed about 1 point to win in another league. And all 3 of those leagues, I had one person to play, Jeremy Maclin. Couldn't get there in what was a very good matchup against the freaking Texans, which are not a great pass defense. They're a really good run defense. Though quite the opposite was true. But that's because my Ravens are a terrible offense. And all the world saw it on Monday Night Football. So, 0.6, letting me down. Thank you, Jeremy Maclin. I hate you. Jordy Nelson continuing to show that he is droppable at 1.1 fantasy points. Brett Hundley's not looking his way. Emmanuel Sanders, 1.2. T.Y. Hilton, 1.5. Danny Amendola, 1.5. Demaryius Thomas, 1.8. Golden Tate, 2 points. Doug Baldwin, 2 points. Larry Fitzgerald, 3.2. Des Bryant, 3.7. Michael Thomas, 5.2. And Tyreek Hill, 5.4. None of these guys even got you.
I mean, these were top names a year ago. Des Bryant, Michael Thomas, Larry Fitzgerald, Tyreek Hill. What is going on in this league this year? It's amazing.
Nobody knows. Tough matchups for some of them, to be fair. But, it's not been the high-flying season that everybody hoped it would be.
At all.
No, not at all. Tight ends that let you down. Jared Cook, 0.1. Cameron Brate,
killing me.
0.6, showing that he is not a favored target with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Though Ryan Fitzpatrick's never really been one to feature his tight ends either. So, I mean, there's some analysis there. Kobe Fleener, 0.8. Greg Olsen, 1. He got knocked out of the game, his return game, and he was not in there for long, about a half. Evan Ingram, 1.8. Richard Rodgers, 2.5. Austin Seferian-Jenkins, 2.7. Jesse James, 3.2. Eric Ebron, 3.4. Austin Hooper, 3.8. Travis Kelce, 3.9. Jason Witten, 4.4. David Njoku, 4.7. Tyler Higbee, 4.8. Julius Thomas, 5.2. And then your guy's favorite, O.J. Howard, 5.2. None of these guys got you to that. I can't even say magical 6 points. It's like expected, hopeful, optimistic. I started you get me at least 6 point threshold. So with that,
well, this is the thing about O.J. Howard, and you just brought him up. First of all, he's not our favorite. Okay,
I know. I just like to give you guys a hard time.
Very, very good.
Yeah, in a couple years.
But this is the thing I'll say. I think we need to take another look at this tight end position and start saying if they get 5 points, then that's not a bust because this tight end position is so bad. It's complete garbage. And it happens every time. But the other thing I was going to point out, it's sad. Every single Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt, and Alex Smith, all in the duds list. The entire Chiefs offense is on this duds list.
The Chiefs offense put up 10 points. So,
it is just painful. just painful.
It is very, very painful. Yes. In fact, I believe they were. There's only one team, I believe, that scored less points than them this week. No, two teams. The Chicago Bears got 3 points. The Dallas Cowboys got 6, and then they were tied for third. The Chiefs and the Giants for 10 points. So very low scoring.
Not good company.
Nope, and that low scoring will obviously lose you your game and will obviously hurt your players for fantasy because touchdowns are kind of what it's all about. All right, so with that, I guess we can go ahead and move into our top headlines from around the league. Not too much to talk about right now, even though all 32 teams played. We'll start in Tampa Bay, where Buccaneers quarterback Jameis Winston he will be practicing and has been to this point this week. And provided that there are no setbacks or soreness reported, there is a chance that he will play in Week 13. So good news there, especially if you are a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fantasy weapon owner. I mean, we're hoping that this turns around Doug Martin. We're hoping this gets Mike Evans going more, Cameron Brate back to relevant. I can't talk. Just a whole team. They need an infusion. Ryan Fitzpatrick has been a good manager, which is what he does, but they need Jameis Winston. Let's go. Oh, no, one more. Buffalo Bills head coach Sean McDermott. What is wrong with me? Buffalo Bills head coach Sean McDermott said that quarterback Tyrod Taylor will start Week 13, so that's what we all hope for, and he has confirmed it, so good news there. No running back news. We'll go to the wide receiver position where Oakland Raiders wide receiver Michael Thomas and, on a side note, cornerback Aqib Talib, they have both been suspended for 2 games without pay for unsportsmanlike conduct and unnecessary roughness rule violations, a.k.a.
absolute idiocy.
A.k.a. Aqib Talib for the second year, second matchup in a row, he ripped Michael Thomas's gold chain that he wears under his pads clear off his neck, broke the clasp and all, and this time Michael Crabtree took it a little bit more personally, and they got into a full-on brawl. They were both ejected, which a lot of people were expecting. Well, since they were ejected early, they probably won't get suspended because usually it's one or the other. Oh, no, they got suspended, and they got suspended for 2 games. I'm expecting them to appeal, so it'll probably end up being 1. But, yes, as of right now, if you are a Michael Thomas owner, this could not have come at a worse time because this is going into your playoff push. So,
you mean a Michael Crabtree owner?
Yeah, Michael Crabtree, not Michael Thomas. Thank you for catching that. I am dumb.
That's cool.
Speaking of, this is why you're here. You keep me on the right path. Speaking of Oakland Raiders, also wide receiver Amari Cooper, he is in the league's concussion protocol. He is dealing with also a sprained ankle, so his status is very up in the air. He's a little banged up, yeah. Yep. In Buffalo, wide receiver Kelvin Benjamin has torn his meniscus. He is headed to injured reserve, so capping off what has been a very strange season for him. And then Cleveland Browns wide receiver Josh Gordon is going to play, quote, as much as possible, end quote, in Week 13, according to head coach Hugh Jackson. So if
that is not a good sign.
If you stashed Josh Gordon in your Dynasty League, if you went out and spent a lot of fab to get him or not, or you just picked him up, whatever, and you've been holding him for a couple weeks with the optimism of getting that number 1 fantasy wide receiver from, 2013, I think it was. It was a really long time ago. If you are hoping to get that player back, I think you're going to be sorely disappointed, but he is going to suit up, and he should play quite a bit. So, I ask you, Jason.
I mean, I hate it. I hate it. I know you're going to ask me, and I'll tell you right now. I hate when I hear someone say, "Oh, he's going to play as much as possible." You know, that is not. You want to hear a coach say he's going to suit up and play. He's going to start. You know, that's all you want to hear. You don't want to hear the caveat "as much as possible." That is not a good sign. And we preached this. Both you and I have preached this this whole season. Do not start a player the week that they're coming off of injury, especially a long-term injury. Don't do it. Give them a week, maybe 2, to get right. Then start thinking about pushing them into your starting lineup. If you got them on your bench, good for you.
Injuries, or in his case, a multiple season spanning suspension. You don't know where he's at physically. It's risky. It's a decent matchup. The Chargers are middle of the pack when it comes to defending wide receivers for fantasy purposes. But yeah, I don't like it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't start.
The game, if I'm remembering correctly, is also on the road in Los Angeles, so even more reason I don't like it. Yeah, let's wrap this up at the tight end position. We'll start in Carolina. As we already mentioned, Carolina Panthers tight end Greg Olsen, he left the game. His injured foot was acting up. He got x-rays on Monday. They came back negative. He is undergoing additional evaluations, but by most accounts, from what I can tell, this is the same injury that we've seen a lot of wide receivers get, where generally, you break something in your foot. We talked about this at length last year with Sammy Watkins, where, if it doesn't take, there's a good chance that you're going to need a secondary surgery, and then, after you recover from that, you're usually good. I believe that is the same injury. I'm still looking for confirmation of the severity of the initial injury in comparisons. I'm not a doctor, but I believe that is the same condition. We've seen a lot of other wide receivers get, so he can play through it. And knowing him, he's kind of the Iron Man. He's going to probably want to. So if that is the case, if he's out there, he's probably not starting for me because he's going to be hobbled.
Yeah.
Sucks because I know a lot of people went out and picked him up. I'm with you guys. There was a couple leagues that I found him in that he was dropped. But I'm not going to say drop him just yet until we know for sure, but be prepared to. He might be not worth rostering. We'll see. And then New England, I almost said New England, Tennessee. New England tight end.
Both of them.
I can't. There's something so wrong with me tonight or this morning. What is this? What time is it? Martellus Bennett. He has been. Depending on where you live in the country, it depends on the answer to that question. New England Patriots tight end Martellus Bennett has been placed on injury reserve, ending his season as well. So those are your top headlines, fantasy-related ones from around the league. And let's move into our topic of the day. The reason you guys are all probably here, and it only took us about 40 minutes to get to it, your top waiver wire targets for week number 13.
Good thing PJ's not here. It'd have been taking an hour.
Probably, because he'd want to go in and give us an in-depth analysis about how awesome Zach Ertz was, and this, that, the other, and explain what's going on in Kansas City. So, though, to be fair, some of these are questions we would like answered.
Absolutely.
And he's more plugged into those teams than we are at this moment. There's three of us trying to cover the whole league, so we kind of have assignments. But yeah, anyway, back to what we were talking about yet again. Let's move into this top waiver wire target section, and I'm going to start at the running back position where I am targeting Jacquizz Rodgers. Now, Jacquizz Rodgers, he is... The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have left a lot to be desired on the offensive side. They have not been the team that everyone thought they would be, and I know Hard Knocks kind of inflated that. But look, bottom line, this team needs to move the ball. They have what is a decent matchup on the road in Green Bay, which we know that they give up a good amount of points. Their defense is far from elite, and Doug Martin is in the concussion protocol. So who knows if he plays? If Jameis Winston is back, this offense gets moving. Doug Martin doesn't go. Jacquizz Rodgers has a very real chance to put up some decent fantasy production as a streaming option for this week. I'm not spending a lot of money to go get him because this is a 1-week Band-Aid. You're probably not starting him for multiple weeks in the future. But if you need a start for whatever reason, bad matchup, somebody got hurt, you need something for week 13, this is a guy that I think could be a very sneaky player that you'll probably be able to get for pretty cheap. But I don't think most people are going to be looking at this. So I would highly recommend picking up Jacquizz Rodgers for a week 13 play. I guess we can tag team CJ's guys. CJ has Rex Burkhead. Jacquizz Rodgers owned in 10.5% of leagues. CJ's guy, Rex Burkhead, owned in 30% of leagues. He is... And I understand this. Dion Lewis, I think, is the guy to have in this offense. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I would say Dion Lewis for sure.
Dion Lewis has been the primary workhorse, but they are giving it it's not 50-50 by any stretch, but it is a pretty decent split. Yeah. Rex Burkhead has kind of taken over James White's role as more of the pass-catching back who can also run, which this is the 1-2 punch that I think in reality New England wants. They want those two guys out there that, no matter which one it is, it doesn't tip the hat of what they're doing. If it's going to be a run, if it's going to be a pass, there's no specialty. Both these guys can run. Both these guys can pass protect. Both these guys can pass catch. So I think Dion Lewis is the one. Rex Burkhead has standalone value. I mean, he had a very good week this past week. So I get it. I like it. And, he has standalone value. If you're in a deeper league, he's definitely a guy that you could make a serious argument for starting. So, yeah, go get him. He's definitely a stash play. And if Dion Lewis goes down, holy crap. talk about massive upside with Rex Burkhead, because Rex Burkhead was the number 5 running back this past week, 50 yards and a touchdown on the ground, and he also caught a pass for another touchdown. So 2 touchdown performance, though Deion Lewis had the volume, 112 yards rushing. So, yeah, you can make an argument. I like it. Go get him. I love your guy. I only didn't say your guy because I figured most of our listeners probably already have him, and it was close to the number.
Yeah.
But, has to be said.
That's why I put 2. Right. I actually put 2, and I felt like, just like you just said, I felt like this guy had to be said. Jamal Williams is only owned at 49.2% of leagues. That's less than half. That is criminal. This guy is the guy going forward, in my opinion. I don't think anyone's going to take this job from him unless he gets hurt. The way he played in that last game, even though it was a losing effort, it was a phenomenal game. I watched him. He looked great in both aspects of the game, running the ball and catching the ball. He's a big back. I think this is going to be the guy in Green Bay for quite some time to come. If you can get Jamal Williams, go get Jamal Williams. Spend whatever fab you need to and get him on your team, because he is going to be the guy in Green Bay for quite some time.
By far the guy that we were highest on in Green Bay going into this season. So
absolutely.
Definitely like the opportunity.
And we said it at the beginning of the season. We said we don't know when it's going to happen. It could be week 1. It could be week 5. It could be week 10. Ty Montgomery is going to go down, and when he does, Jamal Williams will get his opportunity. And sure enough, there he is.
I will also float this out there, though. We talked about this on the Patreon show. He has a really, really tough playoff schedule, so you're hoping to get him as a flex option, but I mean a high floor option for sure.
Absolutely, and don't expect. That's why I said he's the guy. He's going to be the guy in Green Bay. I didn't necessarily say he's going to be a wide receiver, or a running back 1, because also remember they have a rookie or a backup quarterback throwing the ball in Brent Hundley, which means that teams are going to make him throw the ball to beat them. So they're going to load the box against Jamal Williams, but he's going to get the volume. So if you can get him, I say get him.
If you're in a points per rush league, he is very good.
Oh yeah,
21 rushing attempts this week.
Very, very true. Now I added another guy in there for deeper leagues, just like the leagues where like our league of record is extremely deep because there's so many players and we have so many different positions. So I'm looking at a DJ Foster over in Arizona. The reason I'm looking at him is because he's a proven commodity as far as you can know what he can do. He's an out of the backfield pass catching type of a back, very quick. And by the way, Kerwin Williams is in concussion protocol, and Andre Ellington has been released. So he is the backup right now. He is the second guy behind Adrian Peterson, and he's probably going to get more of those passes going his way than Adrian will. So I say go ahead and put him on your bench because he is going to get a little bit of volume.
Is he going to be the next Ricky Seals-Jones coming out of there? The guy nobody's ever heard of that comes out and is legit with the current quarterback situation?
It could be. It depends on the quarterback situation. And as we've seen in Green Bay, the changing of the guard from Jordy Nelson to Devontae Adams, it happens. Quarterbacks like different styles. They like to throw to different people. This could possibly be one of those guys.
I like it. Let's go to the wide receiver position where I am targeting Cooper Kupp, which is a guy that honestly, when I looked up his ownership, I was staggered to find that he was only owned in 19.5% of leagues. Yep. I thought for sure this was a guy that was going to be at least around the 50-point range. I mean, come on, guys. This guy has been the top PPR option in Los Angeles for a while. Yes, Robert Woods has been the number 1, but Sammy Watkins has been that boom-bust guy. Cooper Kupp's been the PPR guy. He's been getting just high volume every single week. Him and Jared Goff have a very good rapport. And by the way, Robert Woods, he didn't play. He's not expected to play next week. And Cooper Kupp, where that didn't happen, he got 11 targets, 116 yards. So against a good, surprisingly good New Orleans Saints defense. He's got the Cardinals, and the Cardinals have one truly shining point, I think, on their defense, and that is obviously Patrick Peterson, who I expect to be covering Sammy Watkins. So I think Cooper Kupp is going to be, again, an amazing start for this week. I don't like him much past Week 13. Philly's going to be tough. Seattle's going to be tough. Tennessee's actually a good matchup in your championship weekend if you want to stash him for there. But, Arizona, I think he's going to have a very good matchup this week. So he's definitely a guy I'm targeting. And again, only owned in 19.4% of leagues. So I would go get him if you need a spot start this week. Let's see. CJ's guy, Zay Jones. I don't know what else there's to be said. Jordan Matthews has been very disappointing in Buffalo. I almost said Sammy Watkins. Kelvin Benjamin just went to IR, so Zay Jones is going to get a big bump. So I can understand the volume play alone, and he's only owned in 15% of leagues, so that's a guy you could definitely get, and a guy that probably people aren't looking at. I don't think anyone's looking at most of these guys that we're saying, which works. And your guy, Jason.
Well, a guy I actually mentioned last week as well, Marquise Goodwin. He had kind of a down week this week, only 7.8 points. Of course, he was playing Seattle. That's a tough matchup. He's got Chicago coming up, which is actually a sneaky good matchup too. But Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the quarterback more than likely. He stepped in after C.J. Beathard took a hit and promptly threw a touchdown. So I like Goodwin's upside, especially with Jimmy Garoppolo in at quarterback. I think that this is going to be a guy that is going to be sneaky good pick for you. Put him on your bench. Wait to see what develops between him and Jimmy. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Another guy I'm going to put on here is Cordero Patterson. And the reason I'm going to put him on there is because, as we've mentioned, both of the main guns in Oakland are out for different reasons. That means Patterson's going to get a bump in production. He's going to get balls going his direction. So I would definitely pick him up. Goodwin's only owned at 1.9%. Cordero Patterson, 0.07% of leagues. He's there. Just get him, stash him on your bench, and watch what happens.
I agree. So with that, let's go to our tight end position, where I am going back to the well, and I'm telling you to come on, guys, get Charles Clay. What more do I have to say? Look, he came back from injury.
Just do it.
He was out there for 52% of the plays. He was out there for close to 70% of the plays last week. Yeah, I know the offense isn't great, but he has been basically the top pass catcher. We just talked about how, I almost said Sammy Watkins again, how Kelvin Benjamin went down. Charles Clay seems to be Tyrod Taylor's favorite target. And guess what? Tyrod Taylor is under center. So I just love Charles Clay. He's shown that he's back. He's healthy. His volume is increasing every single week. So yeah, he's back to being, I think, a pretty sure start. And against the Patriots, which the Patriots are, look, we talked about how, and this is something we're going to be getting into more on this week's Patreon show, reality versus perception. The Patriots, though, rated as being a bad defense, have actually been really good the last couple weeks. They've been getting better, but they're still not very good against the tight end. And guess who's a tight end? Charles Clay. So I would be getting him, and I would be playing him. He is a good floor play with definitely a ceiling opportunity. CJ's guy, Tyler Higbee, again, Los Angeles Rams, and I'm guessing his argument is along the same lines as mine with Cooper Kupp. Robert Woods is down. Why am I jumbling names so much? Good Lord. Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins. He is going to probably be shut down, covered by Patrick Peterson, so this ball's got to go somewhere. It's probably going to be Cooper Kupp. It's probably going to be Tyler Higbee. So these are definitely guys worth picking up and worth playing this week. And then wouldn't be complete if Jason didn't throw out this guy. So go ahead, Jason.
Absolutely. You know, it has not happened for me very often this year, but I love when a player makes me look intelligent. And Ricky Seals, like I said, it has not happened that much this year for me. So I'm going to go ahead and just savor it. I'm going to savor it while I can. Ricky Seals-Jones. I mentioned him last week, and you guys, we talked about him, and I said keep an eye on him because you never know what's going to happen with this new matchup. It could continue. He could continue doing well. Well, guess what? He's the number 2 tight end over the last 2 weeks. 126 yards and 3 touchdowns in 2 weeks. He has been absolutely phenomenal. He looks great. He is bringing new life back to that position in Arizona. He has actually done better than Gresham, and he has a better rapport with the guy that looks like he's going to be our starting quarterback throughout the rest of this season, which will be Blaine Gabbert, which I'm not 100% shocked about. This is a guy you want to get, guys, because I think he's going to continue. And this, by the way, 72 yards and a touchdown against Jacksonville, okay? That is a really good defense, and he just shredded them for 72 yards and a touchdown. So moving forward, he's going to have some pretty good matchups going forward. I would go ahead and grab him, put him on your bench. Honestly, I'm starting him if I've got him.
Fair enough. All right. Well, with that, let's get out of here. That's going to do it for us today. Please make sure you guys tune in on Friday when we will be talking about all of our starts and sits for week number 13. As always, as we mentioned already, this is a year-round podcast, guys. You really get your edge in the offseason. That's how you know these names, these rookies, these depth charts, just the guys to watch, who to not target, because guess what? Things change drastically in the offseason. If you stop paying attention, you are putting yourself at a disadvantage. We're here every single Tuesday and Friday all year long. If you want a bonus show, head over to patreon.com. We give a much more advanced show there every single week as well, so there's a third episode over there. You can join the community on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. Just search for the Fantasy Football Fanatics. On Twitter, we're at the FF Fanatics, or you can follow us individually. I'm at G Palmer FFF, and Jason is at Jason Cabrera 13. And speaking of the Patreon show, we're going to move into that next. If you guys are interested in that, as I already teased, we're going to be talking about reality versus perception. There's a lot of guys, a lot of matchups that when you hear something, you think, oh, that's a good matchup, or oh, man, I got to start this guy, or quite the opposite. And quite the opposite to those perceptions have been true as of late. So we're going to dive into some of those and, just kind of clearing the air and getting you guys realigned with what you need to be thinking about certain players and matchups going into your fantasy playoffs. So with that, we are signing off. Any parting thoughts, Jason?
You know what? I do have a parting thought real quick. I missed being able to say this a couple weeks ago. Things have been going on, but I wanted to go ahead and throw a congratulations to UFC fighter Rose Namajunas, the new strawweight champion of the world. If you don't know her story, go look it up, guys. She is absolutely phenomenal. She went from an abusive relationship and turned it around and became the new strawweight champion of the world in just a few short years. So congratulations, champ.
There you go. I like it. That was actually quite a surprising fight, honestly. So, yeah.
Oh, man. 3 minutes into the first round, knocked her out. Amazing.
Womp. All right, so with that, we're out of here. Everyone we do more than football. Don't judge us.
A little bit. We know some things.
We do a lot of nerdy stuff and other sports and all types of stuff. So, yeah. All right, we're out of here. Everyone take care. Have a great week. We'll see you on the Patreon show. If not, we will see you on Friday. Take care, guys. Bye.